I'm a Diplo brat. My father was in the foreign service, that's why I have a funny accent. I was born in Allahabad. When I was 6 months old, we relocated. We lived in Somalia, then Greece, Lebanon, Germany, Ivory Coast, Bulgaria. We moved every 3 years. And then when my father retired, we were in Delhi. And I was there for a good 6 years, and I was a backup dancer for Sukhbir. And my best friend at the time had decided to move to Bombay to pursue advertising. So I came to visit her on a really random weekend, and I remember I landed, it was a monsoon, it was raining, and my window was down. I was in one of those black and yellow cabs. And I'm very filmy that way. It kind of felt like, you know, when every time there's an actress who's driving away or into her new life, I just needed a soundtrack. That was all that was missing. And I realized right then that I have to move here. It was amazing. So initially it wasn't easy. I literally landed in Bombay out of a movie with 2 suitcases, and I had saved about 40,000 rupees from my dancing, which is, you know, not a lot of money in Bombay. I lived in a house, I documented this in my book, with 6 girls and a pigeon who would fly somehow into this room at night, and it would always fly around the room, and I always thought it's going to hit the ceiling fan and there would be blood everywhere. So I would sleep with the sheets over my head, and I just thought I need to do something with my life. So I used to write a gossip column in the midday called Malini's Mumbai. I remember saying to my friends, you know, I wish I had more space to write my column, because they always chop it up and it only ends up being who came to which party with who and who left with who. So this friend of mine, Karan Wadera, said, why don't you start a blog? And I literally said, what's a blog? And he said, well, it's like this online diary and you write it. And I said, who reads it? He goes, don't worry about that. And the next day he made me a WordPress account. And he sent it to me. And I still remember, it was May 5th, 2008, I wrote my first blog. I would always rush home, finish my day of work, go home, blog, go to the radio station, do my show, come home and blog, and stay up till like 4 or 5 in the morning. And I loved it so much. And I remember my now husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, was at Harvard Business School, and he was coming back after 2 years. And he came back and started working in finance. And I told him, you know, I just want to quit. I want to do the blog full time. People abroad, Perez Hilton, all of them are doing it. And he kept saying, wait, give it a little more time. Because I had such a great situation. I had 4 different jobs. I was making a lot of money. And this was not going to make any money at all. So then I was like, I really want to do it. So he said, okay, I'm working in finance. I'll support us for the year. Give it a shot. Let's see what happens. And I remember I was so excited. It was like sometime in February. I was so excited to have quit. I went home and opened my laptop, and I was like, okay, this is it. And it was so great because there was so much interest that poured in right away. But pretty much for that year, before we raised any money, it was me and Mike on my sofa at home. And I always used to joke with him, I'm like, one day I'm gonna have a pink sofa in my office. And 6 years later, that sofa arrived, and it was really funny because the door to my office is really narrow. So when the sofa came up, it couldn't fit through the door. So we had to saw the legs off and then get it up and then saw the legs back on. But I'm like, that sofa has to come into this office. But it was a long road. You know, everyone says it happened overnight. It really didn't. I started in 2008. It's been a decade. And I remember going to parties and not knowing anyone, not knowing what to wear, and I would kind of like awkwardly stand around. But I think the thing that worked to my advantage is that I didn't look like the rest of the press, who were like big cameras pushing each other, and I was kind of like meek, and I never really asked anything too personal. I would always ask something that I really genuinely wanted to know, like, you know, how did it feel doing such and such thing in this film? And what I liked was that that resonated with them. And honestly, 80% of the things I know I could never tell anyone or never write. And I think keeping that secret for long enough gave them that confidence. The turning point was sitting there and writing all this stuff. I started to realize that there's no one else here doing it. And even people internationally were getting in touch with me. I remember One Drop Foundation got in touch and said like, hey, we're looking for bloggers around the world. We'll send you a flip video camera if you do a post for us. And for me at that time, I'm like, wow, somebody's gonna send me a video camera for writing a blog? It was like mind-blowing to think about it. And I didn't realize that from 2008, we have been an influencer brand, which is all the rage today. And then I think what happened is Mike and Nashad were sitting with me because someone actually came to me and they offered me a sum of money for a percentage of my business. I didn't even think of it as a company then, you know, I barely had trademarked the name and a logo. And they said, look, don't do it. Don't give it up yet. Let's do this together. And I said, are you guys sure? Are you in it for the long run? And they said, yes. And that's when it's kind of been no looking back. We decided to move into an office. We set up and, you know, paid the rent from the little money that we would make in. And then we raised, in 2012, we raised a little seed money through like Rajan Anand and the head of Google and a bunch of other people to like get us started. I think one of the things that I've realized is that as a brand that's been around for so long, we also have a responsibility now to speak for the millennial audience. And for instance, with things that are happening like the Me Too movement, I think that voices like ours are so important. And I like to call my audience Priyanka. Priyanka started following me in 2008. And I always thought that I was just Priyanka's source for Bollywood gossip, her Bollywood BFF. But I've realized that she's grown up with me for the last 10 years, and now she looks to me for everything: work advice, relationship advice, mental health, social causes, all these other things. And it's kind of like having a big sister on the internet, and that's really what we want to be, and I think that's really the future for us.